The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Hertek. Here. Vieira. Carlson. Here. Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. Can we get staff to go through the agenda, please?
And we do have some housekeeping items, first of which I would now yield to the Planning Commission to address the first item.
Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. I'm addressing this item since it's a comp plan amendment. The applicant has requested that there is a continuance from tonight till August 21st for the case on Magnolia. I'm here to answer any questions, as is the applicant.
Verify, that would be July 24th.
Actually, that request has changed to now August 21st.
August 21st, okay.
That's number one.
Number two.
Motion to continue to August 21st, 2025, 315
Second.
Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602, third floor.
We have a motion from
5:01 p.m.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. And next.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Next is item number 10. The applicant is requesting this item be moved up to follow item number 3 on tonight's agenda. Item number 3 is a vacation request. Item 10 here is the rezoning that complements that earlier item on the agenda.
So move to move item 10 to follow item number 3.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And next?
Last item, item number 11. This was an item that was withdrawn by the applicant, so we request removal from tonight's agenda.
Move to withdraw.
Second.
We have a motion to withdraw item 11 from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you so much. And that is it, correct?
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. I would like to have a motion to open all public hearings,
So
please.
move.
Second.
Excuse me. We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco to open public hearings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The hearings are open. Okay, so the next issues are going to be quasi judicial. Actually, no, the first issue is going to be item number 1. Staff for item number 1, please.
Good evening, members of the council. Jeff McKittrick, Housing and Community Development Director. I'm here tonight to present on our annual action plan. It should have a PowerPoint.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. So I also wanted to share our condolences with you as well. I was able to watch this morning's tribute, and it was very moving. The city, as you know, receives funding from the federal government through Housing and Urban Development on a yearly basis. And as such, we are required to produce an annual action plan, and this outlines our sources of the funding as well as our priorities. This will be for the fiscal year 2026 and program action year 2025. We have a request for applications that go out. We will do a timeline and then a draft of the proposals. We take public input, and we also have a 30-day public comment period. The annual action plan provides a summary of the actions, activities that will be undertaken with this funding, either directly by the city or through a subrecipient. They must be in compliance and follow the 5-year con plan. We are in year 4 of the con plan, so next year we will re-up the con plan, and that will be an extensive process with public input as well. So the activities identified in the annual action plan for funding are our Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, Home, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with HIV or AIDS, or the HOPWA program. Okay. CDBG allocates funding grants to larger cities to carry out activities to benefit low and moderate income folks, as well as low and moderate income areas. Some of the priorities are suitable housing, economic development, opportunities to expand housing as well, and possibly infrastructure. The Emergency Solutions Grant provides funding for homeless services, homeless prevention, street outreach, rapid rehousing, as well as the HMIS system, which manages the homeless data system for the area. The HOPWA program provides funding for folks that are either diagnosed with HIV or AIDS. It is the only federal program allocated to this particular population. And we do this to provide tenant-based rental assistance and help folks with a portion of their rent. It operates very similar to a housing authority's voucher program. The Home Investment Partnership Program funds a wide range of affordable housing activities, and so that can include land acquisition, infrastructure, construction of new, as well as rehabbing units. It also can provide tenant-based rental assistance. So some of the priority needs we know are new construction. Home and CDBG funding can be used for new construction, site improvements, acquisition, and rehab of existing sites for housing. Our supportive housing options are designed to provide folks that are in need of higher level of services. And oftentimes that can be folks that are transitioning out of jail or prison. That can be folks with mental illness or substance abuse addictions. And so those programs are beneficial to help them get reestablished and maintain suitable housing. Public services cover a broad area throughout the community. This can include child care, youth, health services, employment, recreation, education, elderly and special needs, as well as homeless services. Our public facilities funding can go to assist with construction, rehab, operation of child care facilities, health care, again, special needs, neighborhood recreational facilities such as parks, handicapped accessibility improvements, energy efficiency, as well as infrastructure. And so these are our amounts. We were just notified a couple weeks ago from the federal government that this is what we will be getting. These amounts are very consistent. There's a slight difference. Most of them are less than 1 full percentage point different from last year's. So we will maintain. Our SHIP funding is an estimate as the state budget is not complete. We have been told we should expect about the same allocation as well. So our total state and federal funding is looking at $13.2 million for the upcoming year. This is our calendar. We've already released our applications. We've gone through receiving those applications. We have gone through a review committee, and funding recommendations are being made at this time. Memos are being sent out to notify those that have been tentatively selected, as well as to get the mayor's approval. So tonight is our first public hearing. Our 30-day comment period will open on June 23rd, and it will stay open for 30 days. And we will have our second public hearing on July 24th, again in the evening meeting, and the public comment will then close. We anticipate bringing the action plan to council on August 7th for your approval, and then transmission to HUD prior to August 15th. The new funding will go into effect October 1 for each of our subrecipients agencies to begin their programs, and they will go for a year. This is our webpage and resources. Citizen participation plan is a key kind of Bible that we go by to ensure that the community is involved. We are looking for input from low and moderate income folks, minorities, non-English speaking, persons with disabilities, public housing residents. Again, we have the 30-day public comment period as required. And we take comments either in person, voicemail, email, anything folks want to do. We'll take their comments into consideration. That's all I have for you. Questions?
Does council have questions? Does anybody in the public wish to comment? Is there a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Could you announce the second public hearing, please?
We'll have a second public hearing will be held on July 24th, 2025 at 5:01 p.m. at, I never can get this address correct, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is number 3, staff, file number VAC 2419. Do we have staff?
Ross Amos, Development Coordination.
There we go. Now we see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Ross Amos, Development Coordination. I'd like to ask the clerk to share my screen, please.
We're befuddled. Okay, thank you. There we go, we got it.
One second.
Ross, you're good to go.
Ross Amos, Development Coordination, presenting file number VAC 24-19. The applicant's name is Christopher Hiroki. Representative name is Vernon Hudson. Property address is 614 East 7th Avenue. The proposed vacating request is to vacate the alleyway located north of 7th Avenue, south of Oak Avenue, east of Interstate 275, and west of Taliaferro Avenue. This application was filed approximately August 23rd, 2024. The applicant's reason for the application is the alley is not utilized by both adjoining properties. Right-of-way was created by subdivision plat. The existing right-of-way is approximately 1,139 square feet. Here is an aerial view showing the applicant's property in red and the proposed vacating request in yellow. Here. The subdivision plat in which the alley was created. This is an image looking north from 7th Avenue. The approximate location is just behind the line there of the alleyway. And here is an alternate aerial view looking south. And again, the approximate location of the alleyway is just behind the building here. Staff objects to this vacating request. Easement reservations are required by TICO, and if council approves of the vacating request, transportation will require an easement over the entire vacated right-of-way between first and second reading. Special conditions must comply with natural resources in Chapter 27 as regards to tree preservation and site design for any improvements placed adjacent to trees in a vacated area. That concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Does council have questions? No questions. Thank you, Ross. Is there an applicant? Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I want to first say how sorry I am for your loss and for our loss too, because we're really going to miss her up there. Councilwoman Hurtak, you mentioned this morning, but it can be different being a female in this room, and I've always looked up to the two of you, and I really wish I would have gotten the chance to say that to her. So wanted to say that tonight. But I will go ahead and jump in. We have two cases before you tonight, a vacating and a rezoning. They're inherently paired together, so I'm going to mention a little bit of the rezoning in this, but they'll be opened separately, heard separately. So the reason for our vacating request this evening is that we are seeking the use of 2 additional feet of land that is located in this alley. I have a graphic here. This is my client's property here, and then you can see the alley is highlighted in blue. Our current lot width is just shy of 58 feet. I'll get into this a little bit more in the rezoning, but we strongly feel that this lot is better suited for something commercial, specifically commercial neighborhood.
For clarification, we don't see the shading.
It's on the east side. It might just be too light.
Okay, just the box.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's too light. You can see where it says together with west half. That's the alley. Commercial, per code, a commercial zoning requires a 60-foot minimum lot width. In full transparency, we filed this thinking we had 60 feet. The rezoning originally withdrew it, filed the vacating, refiled the rezoning. So that's solely why we're here before you this evening, because we would like to obtain 5 feet of the vacated alley. It's unimproved, it's not used, so that we can meet that minimum lot width for a commercial rezoning. As Ross alluded to, we did have full staff consistency findings with the exception of mobility, and I'm going to walk through that in the rest of the presentation. So I want to caveat this by saying that all of this is in theory, and I'll show you why in just a second. But transportation's objection, the genesis of that, is based in the fact that this vacating would create a, quote, dead end. You can see if you follow the yellow arrows, if you're coming down Oak, and again, this is unimproved, but let's just say you're driving here. You're coming down Oak, you turn to the south. The applicant's property is there, outlined in orange. So you're up against a dead end there. However, there is an east-west alley. So you can see the other yellow arrow, horizontal. but you're running into right-of-way, but it's DOT right-of-way, so it's not city right-of-way. So from the city's perspective, we're creating a dead end here because it outfalls into DOT's land. However, our solution for this is that we have agreed in the ordinance, this language is in there, that we are providing a perpetual transportation easement across the entire alley width forever. It runs with the land, so that there is no even theoretical formation of a dead end here. And I think that begs the question, because we've definitely talked about this before in different cases, what is the difference between right-of-way and a perpetual easement? And the answer to that is honestly really not much. I'm sure Ron could speak to that a little bit better than me, but from an ownership perspective, nothing changes. The city does not own this in fee simple today. It's not going to change that. Still is allowable for public use in the easement. And again, this is going to run with the land. So I wanted to run through some of the vacating criteria, because I know that you all refer back to the 2011 memorandum, and I want to make sure that we are very clear that, we feel as if we're complying with all of these criteria for a vacating. So the first one is it in the interest of the general welfare to vacate the alley. That memo from the city legal department lists 3 different examples, 2 of which are shown here on the screen that I've outlined in green. Will it alleviate or relieve the public from the cost of maintaining a right-of-way that's no longer useful? And the answer to that is yes. The second one is the entire reason that we're filing this application, which is we do believe that it's going to foster redevelopment on the adjacent property. The second criteria is, will an abutting owner's access be completely cut off or diminished? Again, the answer to that is no. I've shown here, this is the Housing Authority directly east. They have written a letter of support for the vacating as well. That's in the record, but they have access off of 7th. Again, theoretically, DOT, they own all of this other land around the applicant's property. They have access off of Oak, and they also have, as you can see, a curb cut there off of 7th. And can the general public interest be served with special conditions? And the answer to that is yes. That's why we're proposing this perpetual transportation easement, to make sure that this area is still available to the public, still available to the city, for utilities, maintenance, access, etc. The fourth and last criteria is that if the entire alley is not being vacated, is there a cul-de-sac or a turnaround? A couple different answers for this. The first is that with the perpetual easement, this does not result in a dead end. The second, as I had mentioned earlier, technically this you can get out. You're just going to be getting out via FDOT right-of-way and not city right-of-way. But like I said, I caveated all of this because if you're looking at a right-of-way atlas, or if you're looking at this, as Ross showed, from an aerial view, or you're pulling stuff from Google Maps, yes, this theoretically creates a dead end. But the dead end already exists. It exists on Oak. So if you're out there today and you're standing where that yellow arrow is and you're looking west, these guardrails are up. There's a city dead end sign that's up. There's 3 red "you cannot proceed" signs that are up. So you can't even get to the point where you're ending up in a dead end because you can't even access it from the north. So this is the point, the pinch point of the dead end. Again, you can't get there today. I don't want to say this on the record, but I was trespassing on DOT's property earlier when I took this photo. You also cannot access this alley from the west either. There's huge shipping containers there on DOT's land. So again, in theory, yes, this is creating a dead end, but in reality, you can't even get there to cause a dead end today. I have it shown here, just zoom out graphic on the aerial. Again, access closed off at Oak, shipping containers blocking the east-west alley there. You can't end up in a dead end. And actually, ironically, the only way that you're going to end up in a dead end is if you're accessing through the alley that we're trying to vacate today. That's how you would end up in a dead end. So with that, I'm going to conclude what I have to say, but I am going to bring up Christopher Haraki, who is the property owner. Yeah, I can answer questions too before.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So I just want to know why you didn't vacate also the alley to the north.
Yeah, so this was also part of our iterative process of getting this application here. So when you vacate the alley, DOT owns that land to the north. We've extensively discussed with DOT, they don't object to this. We were trying to work with them to be co-applicants on the application, vacate the entirety of it, but DOT wanted to gain ownership of the entire width of the alley. And it doesn't work like that. Like we were like, the housing authority is going to get 5. You could buy it back, but we don't represent the housing authority. So I was like, this is a little bit beyond our scope, but we did try. It was
Okay.
definitely an option.
Yeah, that was just,
Yeah.
if you're looking for more land.
I
that
know.
just-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Councilman Miranda, did you have a question?
No, not at all, sir, I'm sorry.
Now, I have a question.
Sure.
This seems like a kind of a interesting process compared to what we usually go through, and that would be a PD or a variance.
Yeah.
So why not a PD?
Because we thought we don't have any kind of specific development intent in mind. I'll let Christopher speak, but they've owned the property for either 10 or 15 years, and we think that a commercial use is better, but we don't really know what.
Gotcha.
So without an intent in mind, we thought, hey, the rare occasion we can do a Euclidean rezoning. I've never paired vacating and Euclidean together, but we were excited to do that and avoid a PD.
In 2 years,
Yeah.
I haven't seen this, so that's good. Okay, thank
Me
you.
either. So, well, I'll bring Christopher up, and then I can answer any other questions after that too.
Good evening. Christopher Haraki. The only thing I want to mention, add to this presentation, it's like I've been owner of that property for about 25 years. I bought this piece of land with the idea to build a residential home, but once we purchased it, a couple years later, they decided to widen the highway, and the noise became extremely loud. It would be unbearable to live there, so we just dropped the whole building and house, and we just purchased a different home in Tampa. And that lot been sitting there for such a long time, and now we're trying to rezone it and see what we can do with it.
Very good.
And that's about it.
Does council have any questions? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco and a second from Councilman Hurtak to close. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The hearing is closed. Councilman Carlson.
Just the vacation first, right?
Yeah, just the vacation.
Like to move file number VAC 24-19, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance of the city of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning that alleyway right-of-way located north of 7th Avenue, south of Oak Avenue, east of Interstate 275, and west of Taliaferro Street or Avenue within the plat map of Oak Ridge subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more fully described in section 2 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. And I guess we could do all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay.
Okay, so now we are going to move, we have to announce the vote, sorry.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m., located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Okay, the rest of the hearings this evening are going to be quasi-judicial, so if you are planning on speaking or to any of these items, would you please stand, raise your right hand to get sworn in by the clerk?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Okay, per our agenda review, we're going to hear item 10 now, file number REZ 2503.
Do you want the document?
Good evening, council. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 10 is REZ 2503. This is a request to rezone 614 East 7th Avenue from residential multifamily 24 to commercial neighborhood. We'll start with an aerial of the subject property and surrounding area. The subject site is outlined in red on the aerial map. It's located on the north side of East 7th Avenue. As you can see, it's in the general vicinity of East Oak Avenue to the north, North Taliaferro Avenue to the east, and I-275 to the west. There is a mix of uses surrounding the subject site. We have the City of Tampa Housing Authority Job Training Center to the immediate east. We have vacant lands to the north and to the west. South of the subject site, there is a property zone plan development, which is currently under construction for multifamily and storefront residential. This is the survey of the subject site outlined in yellow. The survey before you does include the right-of-way that was just discussed and approved by council. Given the surrounding uses, the requested use of commercial neighborhood zoning is appropriate in location and provides an appropriate transition with surrounding parcels. This is a Euclidean rezoning request, so there are no elevations or site plans to show, but I do have some photos of the subject site. This is a photo of the property in question. North of the subject site, we have the vacant parcel, FDOT. South of the subject parcel across East 7th Avenue, the property under construction, zone plan development. East of the subject site, the Job Training Center. West, FDOT property staging area. This is looking west on 7th. Looking east on 7th. And just east of the site, we also have a rehab center. It's on the southwest corner of 7th and North Talafiero. There's also a parking lot associated with that we wanted to include. Development Coordination Compliance staff, we've reviewed the application. We found the request to be consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions?
I'll now yield to Planning Commission staff.
New faces.
Good evening, Council. Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Central Park Urban Village, and the Encore neighborhood. Additionally, it's in Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is here, outlined in purple. You can see the UMU surrounds the entire site, and the site is also UMU 60. To the east along Nebraska Avenue is CMU 35, and to the west across I-275 is Residential 83. The request aligns with policies that encourage redevelopment in urban villages and mixed-use corridors. Future development should orient buildings to the street and locate parking behind structures to support a walkable environment. The request will allow infill development that provides commercial services near employment and residential areas. Overall, the proposed rezoning is compatible with the surrounding area and is consistent with the long-range development pattern envisioned under the UMU 60 designation and the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Anybody have questions for Planning Commission? Hearing no questions, an applicant, please.
Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I'll keep this very brief out of respect for everyone's time. As mentioned, we just feel that this property is better suited for commercial uses, is more compatible given the surrounding development. As mentioned, DOT's land is around here. There's the housing authorities to the east, office buildings, fitness, and then this multifamily project that looks like it has literally come up overnight. 240 units right across the street. That would be great. Patrons of a future commercial use. So we do have a fully consistent staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Appreciate your brevity. Does staff have any or does council have any questions to staff? Thank you. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item?
Move to close.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, Councilman Vieira, please.
Yes, sir. I move an ordinance presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property, general vicinity of 614 East 7th Avenue in City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RM24, residential multifamily to CN, commercial neighborhood, providing effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I was what?
Oh, you said roll call vote?
Yeah, roll
Oh,
call
I'm
vote.
so sorry. Sorry about that.
You don't have to? We don't have to this? Okay.
That's what I was asking, did everybody agree? If you want, I can do it.
Then never mind, we can do it, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, very good.
That's good.
There we go, okay.
Okay. Second reading and motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much, and we move on. Brevity is appreciated. Take note of all that. Item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher Demosh, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 24114. This is a request to rezone 206 West Columbus Drive from Commercial General and Residential Multifamily 24 to Planned Development for residential single-family attached uses. We'll start with an aerial. The subject site is outlined in red. It is located along the south side
Hold on a
of
second. We don't
West
have the
Columbus
presentation.
Drive.
Hold on one second. Presentation's not up.
Oh.
I know, Brian, it's your last day, but
There we go. I could start over on that first part, so we'll start with the aerial, the subject site and the surrounding areas. Subject property is outlined in red on the aerial here. It's located on the south side of West Columbus Drive. The site is currently vacant. It's surrounded to the east and south by single-family detached uses. To the west by single-family attached uses. And to the north, there is a vehicle repair shop there. The applicant proposes the construction of 4 single-family attached dwellings. The site was previously located within the Tampa Heights Historic District, and it was petitioned and approved for removal in May of 2025. The subject site is within the Tampa Heights overlay and shall comply with Section 27244 Tampa Heights Overlay District Design Standards at the time of permitting. Next, we have site plan to show. The site layout shows the proposed 4 units oriented towards the western half of the property with ingress and egress provided along both West Columbus Drive as well as an 18-foot platted alley to the south. Unit 1 up at the top here is proposed with front door orientation towards West Columbus Drive. There is a 4-foot sidewalk leading out from the unit, which connects to a 5-foot sidewalk along the southern side of West Columbus Drive. Next, we have units 2, 3, and 4. They have front door orientation towards the western side of the property. They will essentially look out to a courtyard between the subject site and the adjacent parcel. Each of these units has a 4-foot wide sidewalk. They also have covered porches. Now, I do want to note that the sidewalks leading out from each of these units links up with a 4-foot wide sidewalk which runs north to south, which is located on the adjacent property. The same 4-foot sidewalk links in with the 5-foot sidewalk along West Columbus. The applicant and the adjacent property owner have signed a sidewalk easement permitting egress on this 4-foot sidewalk. Additionally, the site also provides 4 guest parking spots along the south side of the property. Next, we have some elevations. First, we have the east elevation as well as the south elevation. The proposed elevations depict the 3-story building with a height proposed at 36 feet 3 inches. Each unit, as I'll show on the next page, does show a 2-car garage. Of course, we have the west elevations and the north elevations. This application is requesting 1 waiver. Let's see here. Next, we have some photos of the site as well. First photo was taken from the north side of West Columbus Drive. It's looking directly at the subject site. Next photo is from the subject site looking north. You can see the vehicle repair business to the north. Here's an additional photo looking north. However, was photographed from the south end of the subject site looking towards West Columbus. East of the subject site, single-family detached dwelling. This is an additional view looking east. Looking west of the subject site, you can see the existing single-family attached development. This is the building. There's two buildings that are part of that development. This is the east side building, and you can see a little bit here in the photo the sidewalk, which would be shared by the two developments, as well as the courtyard area that would be viewed from units 2 through 4. There's a photo showing that development to the west. I have a vertical as well. This is looking south from on-site. Where that truck is in the distance, that's where the 18-foot platted alley is. And this is a photo taken basically on the north side of the alleyway. The white fence on the other side, we have single-family detached units. This is a photo of that same house that's on the other side of the white fence. And then just to show how the alley is, it's a pretty nice looking alley. Looking west on that alley, looking east. And if you were standing on the subject site looking southwest, this is the view there as well. All right. Development review and compliance staff has reviewed the petition. We find the request inconsistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations, notwithstanding staff's finding of inconsistency. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan, as shown on the submitted revision sheet, must be completed between first and second readings. These revisions will not resolve the issue of transportation's inconsistent finding. I'm available for any questions.
Councilman Miranda, your light is on. Did you?
No, I'm sorry.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, sir, real quick, is the pink house part of this? Okay, so it's
No,
not
sir.
dem- demolished,
Offsite.
it's not, it has nothing to do with it. Okay, thank you very much.
Councilwoman Herzog.
What is the waiver?
The waiver is to section 27-283.12. It's the request to reduce the aisle width from 24 feet to 20 feet. It actually relates to the backup distance for any cars that are parked in the 4 guest spots.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Before I begin my presentation, I have a revised staff report to enter into the record. The staff report just incorrectly stated the number of units in the analysis section.
Thank you.
All right, the site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Tampa Heights Urban Village, in the Tampa Heights neighborhood. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. Here is a flue map of the subject site, which is outlined in purple. It is designated Community Mixed Use 35 and surrounds the site on all sides. To the east, along West Columbus Drive and North Tampa Street, is the UMU 60 designation, and further south is CC 35. 2 blocks south is the residential 35 designation, and 2 blocks north is residential 20. This blue here to the north is public, quasi-public, which includes the Medical Academy at DW Waters and Graham Elementary School. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal would provide compatible infill within an urban village and along a transit emphasis corridor as supported by the comprehensive plan. It will provide additional housing in proximity to transit, employment opportunities, and commercial services. Additionally, the proposed plan development provides pedestrian connections to West Columbus Drive and maintains alley access. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the site plan, and the development is comparable and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and consistent with the long-range development pattern envisioned under the CMU 35 designation and the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Could you end that presentation with restating your name, please?
Quinn Steele, my apologies.
That's okay, thank you. Does council have any questions? Thank you. Applicant, please.
Good evening, Council. Steve McElhaney, representing the petitioner. Let me just start by saying that the issue regarding the waiver applies to the alley. It's not for the drive aisle for the garages. And we prepared an AutoCAD diagram showing that those could be met. But one of the things that council might want to look at is the mandatory use of alleys in the backing up areas. When you can't meet the technical standard, but it's in your code that you have to use them. And we've talked about that before. There's the AutoCAD diagram showing that we can safely maneuver into and out of those visitor spaces that are on the alley. We also widened those visitor spaces to 10 feet wide so that it was easier to move in and out of them. The other thing I want to point out to you is this provides a lot of green space, and it's typically called a garden style townhouse development, and it joins with the project across the street, across the garden here, so that you have a continuous open garden with a connectivity to the front. And so it makes for a very nice presentation. You might remember that when we came before you before, there was some questions about the historic wall that exists in the adjacent property. And so we've incorporated that into our plan. And I'll show it to you. This is the wall across the front, and we're going to continue that across the front of this project. And we've also are sensitive to the historic building immediately to the east, which we're also going to be sensitive to. The drive aisle on that side, on the east side, is 24 feet wide, so there's no issue with that one. This is the project site over here on the left, and you see that we're joining to this project here with that courtyard and green space. And that's a better view of the property that we're joining, and this whole area in here is going to be enhanced, and as I said, basically it's called a garden style townhouse project. And this shows you the proximity of the project site, which is here, versus the existing townhouse project here. There's 5 units here, and we're proposing 4 units on our side. We have a detail that I want to go over with you, because garages have been a big issue, as you know, with council. And what we have done is to incorporate solid waste storage into the interior here. And that still leaves us with a dimension of approximately 20 by 20. So when we're looking at the new code references, you want me to zoom in on that?
We can see it.
So when we're looking at the new regulations regarding garages, you should be also looking at options that include, are you having inside storage or outside storage, so that it's not all one dimension. As I mentioned, the issue regarding the waiver has to do with the alley access, not the property, not inside the property. And when you're dealing with an 18-foot platted alley and you're required to have 24 feet of backup space, you simply can't meet it. So anyway, and this is just an issue that should be looked at as we're moving forward with these code changes, so that it's understood. Although this is a alley that's in pretty good condition, some of the other ones in the neighborhood and in the area are not in such good condition. As the staff has pointed out, the Planning Commission has found this to be consistent. The access to the courtyard connects directly to Columbus Drive. We're requesting 4 garden-style townhouses to be developed adjacent to that courtyard and enhance it. We're being very sensitive to the historic nature of the walls and fences that are in existence. The issues regarding the consistency finding, and I'd like to have all of the Planning Commission's report regarding the consistency with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan be received and filed. I'll be happy to go through all of those conditions. However, if the report is received and filed, I won't have to read all of them. And with the attention
to receive and file.
attention to brevity, and your long day is hopefully not quite as
We already
stressful.
went past the brevity part. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
This is a lovely project. My one thing that I would change if I was if I had a wish, there is great access through the alley, so I don't know why you also need to connect to Columbus. Because as more development comes, that's going to become much more of a walkable corridor. It's just a suggestion. You don't have to take it. But I would love to start seeing that in the future as we have more space for alleys. And then number 2, I don't know if this is the same developer who developed the townhomes next door.
No.
Okay. Because the neighbors, we got phone calls almost twice a week because they would block the alley and people couldn't get to their garages and home. So I just want to encourage you and your developer to reach out to the homeowners across the alley and let them know about your schedule as you work. Because that way I don't have to get the phone calls and you can create the relationship. That was a huge problem. So I just want to make sure that I mentioned that. But thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman, the issue that we have with the alley is it's in your code. And so it's a mandatory requirement that you utilize the alley if it's there. Yeah. And so, as I said, going forward with these code changes, that's something that really should be looked at. Because some of these alleys don't even meet technical standards. This is a good one.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. This is a good one.
This is a good one.
You could have not put an outlet on Columbus and allowed, again, incentivizing more walkability. It's a busy street. So that was just my recommendation, and I would love to see that as we move forward with this alley access of seeing. We've seen it in some. You've brought some of those forward in like the West Tampa area because of the difficulty parking on the street. But also, I just as we move forward, and this area especially is a very walkable area, and it's going to become more walkable. And the fewer curb cuts, the safer it is for pedestrians, cyclists, people with mobility challenges. So again, just a recommendation.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment.
Any other questions? I also appreciate the fact that understanding the backup distance in those visitors parking. One, it's visitors parking, so we're not as keyed in on that, but also that you widened the drive, so you made it more accommodating to be able to do it. So I think you asked and answered that question before you came to us, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Okay, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item?
Second.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. And again, I'm just going to reiterate my recommendation to chat with the neighbors across the alley. They will love you if you can just get to know them. That way.
In your motion, the waivers, the corrections between first and second reading?
Yes. Thank you. File number REZ 24-114, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 206 West Columbus Drive in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification CG Commercial General and RM 24 Residential Multifamily to PD Plan Development Residential Single Family Attached, providing an effective date and including the revision sheet.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very much, Council.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
And we're clipping along with brevity in mind. Item number 5, file number REZ 2517.
Better knock on that wood.
I'm just reminding them.
Good
Just
evening.
reminding everybody, brevity is the key word of the night.
Good evening, Council. Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Agenda item number 5 is REZ 2517, request to rezone 7602 North Nebraska Avenue from Seminole Heights Commercial Intensive to Seminole Heights PD for residential single-family detached and attached uses. We'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site is outlined in red right here. The subject site is located on the northwest corner of East Robson Street and North Nebraska Avenue. The development pattern in the immediate area of the subject site is a mix of residential single-family detached and commercial intensive and commercial general uses. You can see that it's residential here, commercial intensive, and there's the commercial general. There is one planned development to the southwest along East Robson, REZ 21100, approved for residential single-family detached units, which is right here. And the commercial general, located 1 block to the south on East Broad, was approved in 2014, and that is REZ 1406. Next, I will show you the site plan that is provided by the applicant. The applicant is proposing a plan development site plan identifying 7 residential family detached and attached units. All structures exist on site with each unit proposed as 1 bedroom. Here are the units 2 through 4 here. This is unit number 1, and this is number 5 and 6 there. I know they're labeled a little different, 5 over here. The site is designed with 1 point of vehicular access on East Robson Street, that is here, with ingress from the alley on the west and one-way egress going back onto East Robson. The applicant proposes 5-foot walkway connections to the existing sidewalk on Nebraska Avenue for units 2 through 4. Units 1, 5, 6, and 7 do not have a dedicated walkway connecting to the proposed 5-foot sidewalk on Robson or North Nebraska Avenue. The site plan identifies paved drive aisle located between units 1 and 5 here, and that is the only access that is provided for pedestrians. Staff has requested and the applicant has agreed to provide a walkway connection to the adjacent sidewalks surrounding the subject site, and that is an extension of this walkway here, so that they have access to the bus stop along North Nebraska. Surface parking is located on the west here, and there is bicycle parking located here, and a space here, and then motorcycle parking here. The applicant is also proposing to save the existing 65-inch oak, which is located in the center of the site. While the site requires multiple waivers, the utilization of the existing structures and the proposed 7 single-family detached and attached 1-bedroom units provide an appropriate transition from the single-family to the west to the more intensive commercial to the east along Nebraska Avenue. The site is also located in the Seminole Heights overlay and must comply with the overlay standards at the time of permitting. Next, I will show you the existing structures on site, and these are provided by the applicant. This is facing southeast, which is looking at unit 6. This is facing northwest, looking at unit number 4. This is facing west with unit 1 in brown and unit 7 to the right of that. This is facing west with Unit 4 to the left and Unit 1 in front in brown. This is facing northwest, Unit 4 on the left and Unit 7 on the right. And this one is facing north, Unit 5 on the left and Units 2 and 1 on the right. And the last elevation here is facing east, Unit 7 on the left and Units 3 and 4 on right. And these are existing buildings, so those are the elevations. No new structures are being proposed. Next, I have photos of the site. Here's a photo looking at the site across Robson. This is an internal photo of the site. This is another internal photo of the site. This is from the site looking south across Robson. And here is a view of that building that is south on Robson and then located on Nebraska. This is looking south across Robson. This is west of the site. North of the site, it's a vacant commercial. This is looking east towards Nebraska. This is looking across Nebraska, further east there. This is looking at the bus stop that is on Nebraska. This is looking west down Robson. And this is looking at the alley that is being utilized for the entrance off of Robson. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be inconsistent with the land development code. Overall, there are 5 waivers as part of this request. And if City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the inconsistent findings of transportation and urban design. I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? No questions.
I'll turn it over to Quinn with Planning Commission.
State your name first.
Good evening, Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Planning District, the Old Seminole Heights neighborhood, and the Seminole Heights Urban Village. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is here, outlined in purple and designated Community Commercial 35. To the north, east, and south is also Community Commercial 35, which is along North Nebraska Avenue, a designated transit emphasis corridor. And then to the east and further west, we have Residential 10. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the request and finds the proposal would provide comparable and compatible infill development. Land Use Policy 9.2.6 encourages multifamily developments to orient front doors towards neighborhood sidewalks and streets. As proposed, Units 2, 3, and 4 face and connect to East Robson Street. The current design does not fully align with this policy as the front door units for 1, 5, 6, and 7 lack connections to the sidewalk or street. As mentioned in the city's presentation, the applicant has agreed to add a pedestrian connection for Units 6 and 7 to North Nebraska Avenue, which will connect to the adjacent bus stop. While it doesn't fully resolve all pedestrian concerns, the improvements meet the intent of the comprehensive plan and policies related to mixed-use centers and corridors. Additionally, this site will provide a new sidewalk along East Robson Street and provide access via the alley. Overall, the proposed plan development would provide additional housing options within the Seminole Heights Urban Village and is consistent with the long-range development pattern envisioned under the CC35 future land use designation and the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Applicant, please.
How you doing? So my name is Chris Kafer. I did hire David Wright as my agent for this application, but unfortunately he did fall sick and had to be admitted to the hospital a little bit earlier today, unfortunately. So I'm going to do the best I can to answer any questions, but as you all know, we are in desperate need of good affordable housing, and by utilizing these existing charming buildings at the property, we can provide 7 one-bedroom long-term rental units with outdoor spaces at affordable rates below the Section 8 affordable housing guidelines, while keeping the magnificent grand oak tree and keeping to the look of the neighborhood.
Sorry.
Can I answer any questions?
That's all you got? That's
Yeah.
all you got? Okay.
Well,
Council, any questions?
Unfortunately.
No, I like that brevity. You were listening.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Hear that? Council, have any questions?
Well, I mean, there was something to do with the street and the way they face and so forth and so on. I didn't catch all that. I know your
Sure.
individual doing the presentation, not here, so you're doing a yeoman's journey so far.
Right, so part of the challenge with this property is that a good part of it is blocked by the newer bus station along Nebraska, which also really limits the commercial uses of it at this point, because the entrance is on Robson. There are, we basically agreed with planning and city planning that we can pull sidewalks out to Nebraska, basically give a lot of access to the bus station, and then also provide a lot of covered parking for bicycles, motorcycles.
And there's nothing wrong with 7 one-bedroom units, let me say that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you meet other qualifications. What the city had a little problem with it, the county did not, planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Between first and second reading, I think I don't know if you heard that, I think there's some things you gotta work out, if it goes that far.
Right.
I can't speak for the other 5.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item?
Move to close.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda to close, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Maniscalco, would you read this item, please?
I just want to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Hartag.
If that's okay. This is a very unconventional use, and I know it was a lot to get through, but
Yes.
I want to say thank you for saving the tree and reusing. This is just something very unusual, and I hope other folks come and take a look
Yeah.
and see what you've done to try to keep some of the affordable housing stock we have, and I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Thank you.
I'm intrigued too, because I think it's kind of eclectic and funky.
It
so,
is, yeah.
There is a revision sheet, yes. So between first and second reading, revision sheet.
Okay.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yeah, no, it's unique, creative, and it's good, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I have an ordinance, being presented for first reading, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 7602 North Nebraska Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification SHCI, Seminole Heights Commercial Intensive, to SHPD, Seminole Heights Planned Development Residential Single Family Detached and Attached, providing an effective date, including the revision sheet between now and second reading.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. And we're moving on to item number 6. We're clicking along. File number REZ 2534.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 6 is REZ 2534. This is a request to rezone 3305 West Oakellar Avenue from residential single-family 50 to planned development for residential single-family detached uses. We have an aerial available for you showing the subject site and the surrounding area. Subject site outlined in red. It's located along the north side of West Oakellar Avenue. The site is located on a block that is located between South Himes Avenue and South Bailey Avenue. The site is currently developed with a single-family detached structure. The applicant proposes the construction of 2 single-family detached dwellings. The immediate surrounding properties are comprised of single-family detached dwellings to the north, south, east, and west, all zoned RS50. There is a sprinkling of planned development zoned sites. In reviewing those, most of them were sites that went the PD route due to the lots being undersized, or similar to tonight's request where you had a decent-sized lot and they led to the lots being split into single-family detached dwellings being developed. Next, we have site plan for you here. The subject site, I mentioned, is currently developed with a single-family detached dwelling. The parcel totals 9,074 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing the construction of 2 single-family detached dwellings. Each dwelling will have a 2-car garage. The front door orientations will be towards West Oakellar Avenue, and each parcel will total 4,537 square feet. We have a couple of elevations to now show. First, we have the elevations associated with parcel A. The maximum height for parcel A is 28 feet 4 inches. Area showing the 2-car garage, front and rear doors. Next, we have parcel B. Again, 2-story structure, 2-car garage. The proposed height for parcel B is 29 feet 3 inches. And of course, the elevations depict the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood. Next, we have some photos to show you. We have a photo of the subject site. One additional photo of the subject site is on the western side of it. North of the subject site along West Fielder Street, we have detached dwellings. South of the subject site on West Oakellar, one additional dwelling on the south side of West Oakellar. Immediately east of the subject site, west of the subject site. This is the view looking east on West Oakellar and looking west down West Oakellar. Right. The Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the petition. We find the request to be consistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve the application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second readings of the ordinance as stated on the revision sheet. I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Guido?
No.
Okay, Planning Commission, please.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the South Tampa Planning District in the Bayshore Beautiful neighborhood. It's additionally within Evacuation Zone B. The subject site is here outlined in purple, which is designated Residential 10, which also surrounds the site on all sides. Further south, just outside of the frame, is Gandy Boulevard, and that's where you see the CC 35 and the CMU 35. The subject site the request would allow for 2 single-family detached units and the proposed lot widths of approximately 50 feet. Staff has reviewed the request and found the widths are comparable and compatible with the existing block. The proposed plan development is consistent with the density, character, and development pattern envisioned under the R10 designation and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? You have an applicant?
Good evening, Council. Kevin Robles. I have been sworn in. 2107 Chestnut Forest Drive. I want to thank staff for the presentation. It pretty much covers everything that I have. This PD is a result of the legal non-conforming 2 platted lots that are there, and this is the mechanism that we use in which to properly split those lots. I can answer any question that council has. Additionally, we did have a community outreach meeting on May 22nd, 4 blocks away at the Publix, which was attended by a few of the residents. We answered their questions. If council has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Questions? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak this item?
Move to close.
Second.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilman Miranda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 6, file number RZ 25-34. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 3305 West Oakellar Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification, RS 50, residential single family, to PD plan development, residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
So there's a revision sheet with this?
With revision sheet.
Okay, with the revision sheet.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m., located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Hey, before we move on to the next item, Brian Sullivan, are you on there? Brian, come on out.
I hope he hears us.
Last night. Brian Sullivan, wake up.
There he is. There he is.
Please come to the podium. So rumor has it, this is the last night you're going to be here.
Yes, sir, this is it.
Oh, my
After
goodness.
a little over 30 years.
Well, for those that are watching and those that are in the audience, this is the man that makes me look terrible every time I'm here at the dais. He's the magician that makes all this whole process work in the automation room. But yeah, I just found out tonight that tonight was your last day, and I wanted to recognize you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My wife and I are retiring in July after
Oh,
quite a few years.
You're both going.
Same day, out the door, off to the airport.
Well, that's the way to go. Where are you going?
London, and then on a cruise up to Norway and Iceland.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah,
fantastic.
looking forward to it.
Anybody in council wants to say? Councilman Maniscalco.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up at new business, but I'm glad while the room is still full. You're wonderful. Your wife is wonderful. Yeah, I guess I met you my first day on the job, essentially 10 years ago. So we appreciate you. We'll miss you, but I see your adventures on social media, and you and your wife know what it means to live life to the fullest. I know you're both very, very happy.
Yes, sir.
We hate to see you go, but you know what? You deserve it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And may you have a long, happy, wonderful retirement.
Thanks.
Councilman Miranda.
I tell you, thank you very much. You know, your predecessor retired with 30-some years also. Now you, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here then. I started in 74. When did you start?
95.
95, look at that. Congratulations, you've been a great asset to the city of Tampa and to everyone living here. You're a professional and you do the work every day in and out. And sometimes we see it on TV, we don't take credit for the people behind that are doing the programming and the show. Thank you very much. God bless you and your wife, and have a nice life.
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
It's been great getting to know you, and thank you for all your help in all the different places we've been in the last few years. There were a lot of challenges in the past. We could all say a lot, but I look forward to you making me and the rest of us jealous with all the great places you're going to go in the next few years. So please be sure to post
I
the
still won't get
pictures.
to as many countries as you have, but I'll do my best.
Enjoy.
Councilman Hurtak.
I'm really going to miss you. I'm going to miss our conversations and the talking about all the places that you love to travel and the things that you do. So I wish you well, and I am excited to see where you go next. And enjoy your retirement. It is well deserved. Thank you so much for what you've done for the city, but it's now your turn. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Villar.
Yes, sir. And you know, a couple of things. I'll miss our conversations. Probably 40% of them are political in nature, where we give each other mental health therapy, I think, these days. So I will really miss that a lot. And I tell you, every time I see you and Kimberly together, you know, y'all are so simpatico, and you guys are really in love, and y'all really enjoy, you know, each other's company a lot. I can tell that, and I'm just so glad that, you know, both of y'all have happiness in one another, because that's really important. And we may not be able to do it in council because of time or whatever, but we should give both of them a commendation, I think, whether it's off premises. Councilman Scalco, if you want to make it, have at it. But we should do that.
This was more than embarrassing enough, Louis. Thank you, though. I appreciate
know,
it.
man. But again,
Very kind
you're
of
like a really good guy. I mean that. You're a good guy, and so you'll be missed in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Attorney Marty Shelby.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you. And I appreciate all that you do and the staff of CTTV. And you have been wonderful and a great resource for council. And I don't know whether the public really appreciates what it takes to bring this into people's lives, and a lot of people do watch this. It does make a tremendous difference in the community. So thank you for you and your staff and those who continue on. I hope they continue in this great tradition. I do also want to point out that Kimberly Sullivan, who is retiring, is the longtime ethics officer for the city of Tampa. And I've had tremendous contact with her from the day that I started, just about. And I owe her a lot, and I wish you both the very best.
Thank you. I was going to say that Mr. Shelby said something, which is your patience in doing this. I mean, you have great patience. To quote Axl Rose, it takes patience. So you always do a good job with it.
The good thing is you can't hear what we're saying in there.
Oh, I know. I'm sure. You're like, Vera.
Well, you would have to bleep most of it out. And especially about me, I'm sure. But no, I do, 100%. You and Kimberly are two really lovely people. And Councilman Vera said, see you guys together. It's really very sweet. But I'm not going to approve your departure until you remove all these lights that are shining on my bald head. It's like
It's going to be a very dark meeting.
Okay, you know what? I look better in darkness. Okay, that would be good. But anyway, for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll get back to your hole over there.
Thank you. I think Councilwoman Henderson would like you to say to you, keep on making good trouble.
There you go.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you for that indulgence. And now we move on to item number 7, file number REZ 2538.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, again, for the record, Christopher DeMach with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7 is REZ 2538. This is a request to rezone 102 and 106 South Dill Mabry Highway from planned development to planned development for clinic uses. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site and surrounding properties. Outlined in red is the subject site. It is located at the southeast corner of South Dill Mabry Highway and West Kennedy Boulevard. The subject site is currently developed with a single-story structure with a total of 12,150 square feet. The current PD is approved for retail with drive-through uses, and the site previously operated as a CVS pharmacy. Immediate surrounding properties are zoned CG to the east and to the south and to the west. We also have RS60 to the east and to the south. North of the subject site, we have a planned development for professional office uses, and north of that planned development, a little further north on North Del Mabry, we have a planned development which was approved in March of this year for storefront residential, business professional office uses, retail sales, shoppers goods, restaurant and personal services. The subject site is in the West Shore Overlay District and shall comply with Section 27-238 of the West Shore Overlay District Design Standards at the time of permitting, unless otherwise waived. Next, I'd like to show you site plan and elevations. As mentioned, the site is currently improved. It has an existing building, previously a CVS pharmacy. The applicant's proposing the conversion of this existing structure for use as a clinic with exterior canopies proposed at the northwest corner for patient drop-off, as well as a canopy at the southeast corner for ambulance drop-off. The site provides ingress and egress to northbound travel on Dale Mabry and eastbound travel along West Kennedy. Adjacent to the subject site, we do have existing sidewalks along Kennedy Boulevard, Dale Mabry, as well as along West Roland Street to the south. Next, we have proposed elevations. Highlighted in red are the proposed canopies for the site. We have the patient drop-off noted here, and the ambulance drop-off in the rear of the building. Maximum height for the proposed, for the building as it exists, as well as with the canopies, is 30 feet 6 inches. This application does include 5 waivers. Next, we have some photos of the subject site. First few will be of the existing structure. So this shows the property from the northwest corner, southeast corner of the subject site, southwest corner. This is looking south from Kennedy. There's another view. This is looking north from near West Roland Street. This is another view looking north from West Roland. North of the subject site. That's the planned development with the professional office uses. This is looking south on West Roland. You can see there's a quick change oil facility, and then we see the start of residential uses. These are those residential uses to the east of the oil change facility. Looking east, another view looking east. This is the property that's east along Kennedy there. Additionally east. Looking east from across Dale Mabry Highway. This is looking west from the site itself. And lastly, we have a view looking northwest across the intersection of Kennedy Boulevard and Dale Mabry. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the petition, finds the request consistent with the applicable City of Tampa development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve the application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second readings of the ordinance as stated on the revision sheet. I do want to note that we have a updated revision sheet. We did make one very minor modification in conjunction with the applicant this evening to that updated revision sheet. So that revision sheet's essentially been updated twice today. So I have a markup of the minor change we made this evening before council.
So motion to receive and file the revision sheet. Okay, motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Planning Commission?
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the West Shore Planning District in the Bon Air neighborhood. It is also within Evacuation Zone C. The subject site is here outlined in purple, and it's designated urban mixed use 60 and residential 10. It's also within the West Shore Business District in this portion that's UMU 60. To the east and the west is UMU 60 along Kennedy Boulevard, which is a transit emphasis corridor. To the north and the south along Dale Mabry Highway is RMU 100 and Community Mixed Use 35. To the east and the southeast is the residential 20 future land use designation. The request would allow a clinic use in an existing building just over 12,000 square feet, resulting in an FAR of 0.17, which is below the maximum of a 3.25. The UMU 60 portion of the site is being used for the clinic, while the R10 portion will support stormwater and garbage collection. While the request proposes adaptive reuse of an existing building, several waivers are included that do not support a pedestrian-oriented design, including reductions to sidewalk width, street trees, and ground floor transparency. These elements are important for enhancing walkability and the pedestrian experience along key corridors such as Dale Mabry Highway and Kennedy Boulevard. As such, Planning Commission staff encourages the applicant to reconsider the requested waivers. Overall, the proposed plan development is comparable and compatible with the existing development pattern and consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? No questions. Okay, applicant, please.
Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson this evening. I'm going to kick it off, but I'm going to turn you over to my associate Jamie Mayer, who's going to give the brief presentation. I actually have another hearing at the county that's happening right now, and I expect that I might receive a text in the middle of our presentation that I need to leave, so I just wanted to make that announcement.
But we're more fun.
I know, you are.
Not that.
No, they're not fun, they know it. But they did accommodate me and move me to the end of their agenda, so.
Good evening, Jamie Mayer of the law firm Hill, Ward, Henderson, representing the applicant 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700. I have been sworn, and I do have a PowerPoint. I'll just wait for a moment for that to be brought up unless I need to do something myself.
They should bring it up.
Okay.
They're working on it.
Well, I do want to express my condolences to council. Her absence is felt down here, so I can only imagine what it feels like up there. So.
We're waiting for the PowerPoint presentation? Oh.
It's coming back to me slowly.
He was too busy talking about us.
About Vieira.
Yeah.
Computer went to sleep on there, so. And this is yours, I think? Nope, okay. There we go. Okay.
That's true. That's true. I wore her Delta color.
No problem.
You know, I thought about that last night. I thought that would be so nice if we all had something like that. She had them at the store. We could have gone down there, but I doubt it was open.
So I want to thank staff for the excellent presentation. I'm going to try not to repeat what's already been said. Baycare is very proud to have purchased this site. Obviously, it is a site at a key intersection of Dale Mabry and Kennedy. And they're going to be remodeling it, so repurposing this existing building and the existing layout of the site to have a freestanding emergency department to serve this community. And especially at this intersection, there is very good access for many neighborhoods in the area to be able to come to this site. It's also within close proximity, less than 4 miles away from St. Joseph's and St. Joseph's Children's Hospitals, which is very important because this will also be a Baycare Kids location. So it's both adults and children can be treated here. And so this really contributes to freeing up critical beds at those hospitals because this is an alternative for high quality emergency care for both adults and children when the degree doesn't necessarily require hospitalization but does require emergency care. Baycare does have a strong presence in Tampa. They provide services at other locations that they own and operate, urgent care, sports medicine, primary care, other services, outpatient imaging, laboratory services, and oh no, my PowerPoint. Oh dear, well, I have it in paper form, so I'm sorry, just indulge me for one moment. Brian. This is why I always come prepared. Okay. And Baycare is committed to, obviously it's committed to South Tampa and Tampa as a region, and also is committed to being a good neighbor in all of the locations that it owns and operates. There was a neighbor meeting held. The notice of that meeting was sent out to everybody within that 300-foot notice radius for the regular public notice, as well as the participating organizations. And for those folks who wanted to participate but weren't able to be at that meeting, there were also individual calls scheduled, Teams meetings, calls, and email, so that people who wanted to participate, to our knowledge, everybody was able to weigh in on the process. The main topics that came up were security of the building and the grounds, traffic impacts to Roland Street to the south, lights and sirens of ambulances, and upkeep of landscaping. Neighbors were pleased to hear that Baycare had already planned and absolutely commits to having 24/7 security guard assigned to this site. So that was well received. Also, lighting on the site will remain as it is, so lighting will be there to provide that security and safety, but they will not be adding additional lighting, so there won't be new lighting shining into the homes across Roland Street.
They will be replacing landscaping that's in poor health. They will be adding additional landscaping to perimeters as required, and they will only be removing the trees that staff identified as in need of removal. With respect to traffic impacts on Roland, there won't be any new traffic impacts on Roland Street. There is currently no curb cut, no access to Roland Street, and they will not be adding that with this request. Again, they're really repurposing what's already there. The access points that are already in existence are what they're going to use. Additionally, the freestanding emergency trip generation rate is significantly lower than the prior CVS pharmacy with a drive-through rate, so this will represent a significant reduction of trips associated with the site. Finally, and please note, these renderings are not final, and so that's part of the ongoing conversation that Baycare is committed to having with the neighborhood. The ambulance canopy for drop-off and pickup will be a repurposing of the pharmacy drive-through prescription window, and there will be a form of screening on the canopy itself, as you can see along the side. Again, this is not final, and Baycare is committed to, when they hire an architect, having conversations with the neighborhood through various stages in the process. I do want to note that with respect to lights and sirens for ambulances, that represents about less than 1% of the transports that Baycare sees on their freestanding emergency rooms in, for example, Pinellas County at their Bardmore location. And that's because really the lights and sirens are only going to be on those transports that are actually doing a pickup rather than a drop-off. So they're leaving the site, taking a patient whose needed level of care has exceeded what the freestanding emergency room can do, and they have to take them to the hospital. So again, that represents less than 1% of the transports coming to and from Baycare, or from these freestanding emergency rooms. You're not going to have ambulances arriving with their lights and sirens on because, for example, if there were an accident in the immediate vicinity, first responders are going to assess their trauma level, and if it warrants lights and sirens, they're going to take them to a hospital. They're not taking them to a freestanding emergency room because they'll need to go to a hospital. So I just want to reiterate, it's not going to be a revolving door of lights and sirens. However, Baycare hears the neighbors. They understand that another degree of screening would go a long way to address the concerns of those ambulances that do have the lights and sirens. And so part of the change sheet that we discussed with staff was to add a note between first and second reading, giving Baycare the option to add a 6-foot fence or wall there. The reason we're requesting it to be an option is because we heard some neighbors thought a wall or a fence would be better. Others wanted hedges or additional landscaping and thought there could be some negatives to a fence or wall. That conversation's not done. If we don't have the fence or wall option on the site plan, we have to come back to you to add it. But if we don't have the option not to have it, we have to come back to you to remove it if, for example, the consensus with the neighbors is that landscaping would be better. So we would like to add that note in between first and second reading to give Baycare the option to continue that conversation, determine whether a mix of this kind of screening or some other kind of screening will be best here. As you heard from staff, we have received findings of consistency. With respect to the waivers, these all represent waivers to allow the site to remain as it is. This is infill redevelopment. This is a repurposing of existing commercial building stock. Urban Design in particular, who really oversees those, the West Shore Overlay District, made positive findings on all of these waivers. So we do respectfully request that those waivers are all approved. We think that this is an appropriate and beneficial use of this site. And with that, we respectfully request council's approval, and we're here for questions. Thank you.
Any questions from council? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? If you would come along this wall and line up, and we'll call you as first come, first serve. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Before I make formal comments, I just want to also express my condolences with regards to Councilwoman Henderson. I know that she was a colleague to all of you and a dear friend to most of you, and I knew her personally, and again, my condolences. Ray Wong, resident of 115 South Himes in a Bon Air neighborhood of South Tampa. I've been there approximately 20 years. I don't know to what extent you guys have folks that are speaking in support of a project. I can imagine that a lot of times, most times you have people speaking against the project, but I've been there, like I said, 20 years, so I know how this neighborhood has changed. It's changed to a type of neighborhood that we have families with young kids moving in. We have restaurants and services within walking distance. And it's really, we have fantastic schools, A-rated schools within a very close proximity. So I feel as though we're incredibly lucky to be in that neighborhood. I think that major commercial corridor, both Kennedy and Dale Mabry, has been a point of contention for some time. I think primarily because of the transient nature of some of the businesses, whether it's, a revolving door of restaurants or, a vape shop or a CBI, a cannabis shop or whatnot. So I personally feel that this would be a significant improvement to the neighborhood. When I think of biggest and best use, I really do feel like this type of project is the type of project that's going to add value, not just to the neighborhood, but to my home specifically. So I'm happy to support the project. I've had the opportunity to review a lot of the documentation that has been presented today, including the site plans and the civil information, and I do feel as though a lot of the issues with regards to sight lines, privacy, noise. There's been a genuine effort to address those concerns, so I'm happy to see that. I think primarily based on some of the landscaping related strategies to address those concerns. But I do feel as though when I think about the client and sort of being a well-known entity within the community, I feel as though Baycare is likely to be a partner to the community and to the neighborhood, and will continue to work with the neighborhood to help address some of the concerns. So for those reasons and other reasons, I do support this project. Thank you for your time.
Is that because it's a modern interpretation of brutalist architecture?
Listen, let it go, let it go.
I'm a fan too.
Just to verify, everybody has been
Love
sworn
some
in?
brutalist.
You are all here when we got
I've
sworn
been
in?
sworn in, yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, next public speaker, please.
Good evening, members of the council. And I would echo Mr. Wong, my deepest condolences on the loss of Councilwoman Henderson. My name is Muriel Moore. I live at 3612 West Platt Street. My younger cousin and her husband just bought their first home on West Roland Street, down the street from this proposal. I'm here in opposition to this. While I certainly respect Baycare's position in the community and the efforts they've made to mitigate some of these concerns, in my view, it isn't enough. And my biggest concerns for myself are the lights and sirens component. I certainly, again, appreciate the mitigation, but I do think that's very disruptive, and at a 24/7 facility, there's not anything they can do ultimately. Where lights and sirens are needed and warranted, they're going to happen. That is a disruption to the residential neighborhood. We have neighbors in single-family homes who, as you saw, live across the street from this proposal. Beyond that as well, this site, considering there would be parking needs for staffers, doctors and nurses, security, cleaning staff, and patients, I don't know that the site can really accommodate that. We already have a large issue with on-street parking in this neighborhood. And I am concerned, and my cousin let me know that she is concerned about the potential of having cars parked on Roland at all hours of the day and night. Finally, I would point out the sidewalks on Kennedy and Del Mabry are important. They are used heavily. Anyone can see that when we drive down those roads. There's a bus stop nearby on Kennedy that's literally next to this site. The prospect of narrowing those sidewalks for any reason, to me, creates a safety issue and causes me concern as well. So for those reasons, I would ask that this project be denied.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, council. My name is Rob Pan. I also live at 3612 West Platt Street. I'm before you today in opposition of this project for similar reasons to Ms. Moore. Expanding on them slightly, I do have some concerns related to the safety that is associated, or safety issues that are associated with presenting this project and ultimately approving this project. I understand this is a tough position to argue from, because ultimately we're standing against a freestanding ER that could save people, and that is an important project. And I want to acknowledge that and not stand here and say, oh, I hate it because it's going to make my life worse. But I want to ask the council to consider the particularized impacts that we face as residents of that neighborhood. Reviewing the staff reports, with my limited understanding of the city code, it seems like this project is largely in compliance and will likely be approved. But I would just ask that you all consider the negative impacts that maybe aren't as apparent. My concern with safety is related to, yes, they do have 24/7 security. If those people who need to be escorted off of the property for whatever reason are not going to be subjected to any sort of criminal prosecution, they're just going to be asked to leave the property, and I have concerns about where they're going to go. I see the ER as a potential attractant for individuals that are either in crisis or that have severe issues, and I would rather not have those people walking around at night in my neighborhood, to be quite frank with you. I appreciate your time and your consideration in this matter, and with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Jeffrey Martell, 3611 West Horatio Street. Been the Bonaire president for about 2 years. So first, I'm just going to say thank you to the applicant. They did do a community outreach meeting last week on Thursday. We subsequently had the opportunity to talk with them on Monday, myself in particular. And then our neighborhood association had a meeting Tuesday evening. So what I'm here to speak to the council about is generally what the feedback was from that neighborhood association meeting on Tuesday. And I think in general, I kind of put the comments into two buckets. I think bucket one is those with proximity to the facility itself. I think their concerns relative to screening, noise, parking, etc. make a lot of sense. And then bucket two being the neighborhood association in general. So thinking about bucket one, those folks that are in near proximity to the use, screening in particular is a major concern. It's a 24-hour use. CVS was an active commercial use, but it did close at 10 p.m., opened up at 6, 7 a.m., I'm not sure. This is a 24-hour facility. We're introducing ambulance and other elements that, albeit from a land use perspective, maybe they're very similar. From a nearby resident perspective, it introduces a different element. So there was mention by, I think, the applicant's attorney about discussion whether landscaping or a fence or a wall make the most sense. There is a request from the neighborhood association for either a wall or a fence. Further discussion can certainly be had from the southeast corner, which if you were looking at the imagery below is the bottom right, going west up to a point that was even with the back of the building or the east side of the building. From that point forward, the neighborhood association asks for a more robust landscaping plan to essentially carry it forward to the Dale Mabry intersection. And it's somewhat of a 2- or 3-fold request. One is just general screening, line of sight. We have folks that are going to look right across the street. They're going to see this facility 24/7. 2 is noise in general. Any mitigation the fence, the wall, the landscaping can do, albeit maybe infrequent, that the ambulance does have their sirens on. And 3 is generally we are in between. I see 30 seconds. We got Kennedy, Dale Mabry, West, Henderson. We have nowhere to go, left, right, north, south, however you look. So we're in a position where all the commercial parking encroaches into the neighborhood. So if there's anything that can do to make it less attractive to park on Roland and walk into the facility. I know I'm on the clock, but real quick, the second one is traffic calming. Again, those 3 major streets, we also have Swan and Azeel right in the middle. We're asking for a general agreement from the applicant to work with us relative to traffic calming in the neighborhood in general.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applicant, opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you again. For the record, Jamie Mayer of the law firm Hillward Henderson representing the applicant. Just to address, kind of going through more of like a bullet point list to address comments. Parking, we are overparked. So there's no parking waiver associated with this site. Parking for staff, parking for patients, parking for visitors is satisfied. For the CVS parking that they already had satisfies that completely. Again, access, we have heard the comments that, Roland Street would see more traffic. Not only are we not, the access points to the site are not on Roland Street. And the trip generation is significantly reduced for this site overall. So while it is a 24/7 use, as you saw in that chart comparing a CVS pharmacy drive-through to a freestanding emergency room, it's a significantly reduced trip generation rate. Also, that drive-through window was more likely, just from my own personal experience with CVS's, you've got a speaker blasting out into Roland Street. I imagine that caused some disruption, and that is a much higher turnover rate in terms of people using that window. Baycare does, and I think the applicant themselves could speak more to this, but they do have the means actually uniquely to address individuals experiencing homelessness. There are homeless individuals who have been on the site now in its current condition, and Baycare does have the means to do that kind of addressing the situation, see what is warranted, and again, they do have the security on the site. And we are absolutely committed to the screening. Again, that's the reason to having that optionality, that flexibility on the site plan so that we can work through that during the site review process and not have to come back and ask to add a wall or ask to add, a wall somewhere else, etc. So that is something that Baycare is 100% committed to. They're also committed to just working with the neighborhood on other issues to the extent that they can. Roland Street, again, they have no impact on Roland Street. Roland Street is really unrelated to this project as in terms of traffic impacts. So it doesn't, in the zoning context, is appropriate to tie this site to Roland Street. But again, Baycare is committed to being a good neighbor. So to the extent that there are things that they can do or ways that they can help, they will, but it's not something that we can really tie to a zoning district site plan. If you have any other questions for us, myself,
Councilman
engineer.
Carlson, then Councilman Maniscalco. Yeah, two things. Is it, having said all that, is it possible that you could meet with the neighborhood leaders again and then potentially come back with some ideas at second reading? Is that?
Yes.
I mean, I know you guys are very philanthropic, so if you can try to figure that out, it would be better. I know the sensitivities in the neighborhood and anything. I wasn't on council, but I remember when the CVS came, the drive-through caused a lot, and the lights you're bringing up the issues from 10 or 15 years ago. The other thing, and this is not a zoning issue, but since Ray's in the audience, this is also the biggest or most important gateway to South Tampa. And so as you all design this, can you please keep that in mind? I know you need to do your branding, but it also is the gateway to South Tampa. So thank you. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. The concerns of the neighbors regarding noise is something that I would take very seriously because I live across the street from the other Baycare, the main hospital, and my bedroom window faces the emergency room entrance. And I hear day and night ambulances and fire trucks and everybody else going down this busy street, and then the trauma helicopter often flies right over us. I know you don't have a helicopter here, but I get the brunt of it. And the benefit I have is if God forbid anything happens, I can probably walk to the emergency room faster than I can get an ambulance there. Councilmember Carlson mentioned that's a gateway into South Tampa. Kennedy Del Mabry, one of the busiest intersections. But if you look at, the emergency room facilities, when seconds count, the police, the ambulance, the first responders are minutes away. To get to Davis Islands, to get to Tampa General it's isolated. You have to cross the bridge to get there. To get to St. Joe's, where I'm at, Habana and MLK, it's farther this way. I don't know if any other facilities like this that are nearby. I'm sure I'm wrong in this, but it's like right in the heart of Tampa. So, in case somebody does have an emergency, instead of having to get to one of the big main hospitals, they have something right there. But at the same time, being that I experience this on a daily basis, all the ambulance noise, it's constant. Maybe that's why I have trouble sleeping, because I've been up since 2 o'clock the last 3 days. But and I have replacement windows that I just bought. So I'm trying to make my wife happy because I can deal with it, but I have a wife. So
Good luck with that.
Well, I'm trying. So, anyways, what the concerns that the neighbors have, you know, you did mention you're not asking for a waiver regarding parking. You're over parked, you said, so that may not be the issue. This is not a full-size hospital, so you may not have that busy traffic coming in and out. But at the same time, having the option for some kind of buffering, landscaping, wall, anything, because it does help. You know, and myself living across the street from the hospital, I get the brunt of it. So, as Councilmember Carlson mentioned, if you would reach out to the community before now in second reading, but having that option of, as you have already mentioned, you know, doing something, whatever can help mitigate. And then also regarding people that are getting discharged from the hospital, very, very few incidences no one's ever come on to our property. Or, you know, we haven't had somebody pass out on the sidewalk, you know, on the main road regarding people that are just leaving the hospital with nowhere to go. Knock on wood, I've never had an issue. No one's broken into a car, nothing like that. So, just from my experience, you know, I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. As a neighborhood, when I was a neighborhood leader before this, we had a lot of these issues with commercial backing up to residential. One of the things that helped in some instances, so I know you asked for a 6-foot fence, but I would, and I know this isn't quite code, but I would encourage an 8-foot fence. If we could put that, I don't know if it has to be on the site plan or whatever, but I do believe an 8-foot fence does a much better job at light distribute or keeping the light away. So and it sounds like the neighborhood does want a fence. So and I would also probably recommend a concrete block fence. Again, that worked better for us as a neighborhood. Now it might not work for stormwater or for other reasons, but it was a significant barrier, and the neighbors did like that. The other thing I wanted to make sure, because I had a question about this too. One of the public comments was about sidewalks, and I had to ask because I thought the same thing, that the sidewalk was being reduced. But from my understanding, the sidewalk is staying the same size. It's just not expanding to the current code.
Correct.
So nothing about the current sidewalk will change.
Right, that's
So, and because that was important to me as well, because we want people, this is, for better or for worse, a walkable area. I would prefer to have the 10-foot sidewalk, but because this is a reuse and not a rebuild, I'm more amenable to keeping what it is. And I will also agree with my colleagues that, or before I go to that, another thing that really does help, and I know you've all committed to it already, is the landscaping. Truly having a landscape plan that you work on with the neighborhood. It might be great with your meeting. It sounds like you're going to do a meeting between first and second reading to bring some renderings that might help show what it would look like. Again,
Can I suggest if we approve this, we have a stipulation that a landscape plan is included between first and second reading?
I don't know that you can do that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But I mean, we can ask, but I just lost my train of thought.
It's a PD.
You might want to ask staff or legal with regard to that, whether that is a requirement of a landscape plan at this point.
Can we make it a requirement?
And that might not be enough time between first and, when is second reading? July 17th?
Well, and the reason I say that is because oftentimes a property like a CVS, which is a national chain, the landscaping can be neglected over time. But with a local business, ideally, not only will the new landscaping really improve it, but the ability to maintain it a little bit better by being a locally owned business is, in my experience, preferable. Okay.
Ask and you shall receive.
Okay, so this is the landscape plan.
Yeah, Aaron Mayer, Development Coordination. There are 2 locations where a fence or a wall would be required by code, next to the residential or across the street from the residential along the south on Roland. If they wanted to do an 8-foot tall masonry wall to the east, that's a waiver. Natural Resources would support it. But yeah, they could add that waiver between first and second reading. It's section 27-284 3.3. And then if they wanted to make the wall larger down here, I think they were maybe gonna do a fence possibly for the existing trees.
Okay.
But again, they could request to make that fence taller and request a waiver.
So what we can do is, I would support putting that waiver there and then letting you decide with the community between first and second reading what they would like to see. And that way, if we have to rescind the waiver at second reading, we can, and if not, great, you have it.
And I'm sorry, because there was a lot of talking with me and to me. Could you, just for my own, restate what the waiver exactly is? Because we were talking about.
Okay. Sorry. Aaron Mayer, Development Coordination. Yeah, so the code requires a 15-foot landscape buffer between uses.
Is that the same thing as?
Show here.
Yes.
Yeah. So 15-foot landscape buffer between uses next to the residential on the east side, and a 6-foot tall masonry wall. So they would be waiving it to 8 feet tall, or 8 feet tall masonry wall. And then the waiver here is because it's across the street from residential, and it requires a 5-foot wall, or a 5-foot landscape buffer, 6-foot masonry wall. So if they wanted to make that taller, they could request the waiver there.
Thank you. Yep.
Ms. Johnson?
Just Susan Johnson of Les Legal Department. So it would be a waiver to increase the wall height from 6 feet to 8 feet.
And obviously, I would encourage the increasing the wall from 6 feet to 8 feet in the appropriate places. I know as you get closer to Dale Mabry, you would not want the wall that high for visibility and other reasons. But again, I mean, I don't know, in some of that place, it might be prettier to have an iron or a metal fence. So again, I'll put the waiver in, and that way you all can discuss with the neighborhood what would be best. Is that fair?
And it gives us the option to work with them to decide if it needs to be along the, where exactly and all of that. So whether it needs to be along the entire eastern boundary would be support. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Hurtak. You took care of 100% of what I was going to say. Because my experience, Mr. Guido talked about the north side where he lives. I live on the south side of the same hospital. But he's got the main hospital, I got the women's hospital. But what I was going to say is that I believe when that came out years ago to build the parking lot all the way extension, you have the women's hospital, St. Isabel, then Lake. And around Lake, between Lake and St. Isabel, they built a complete chain all the way around the east, west, and north part. And on the south part, I believe there's a wall. I don't know if it's 6 foot or 8 foot, or maybe I don't realize it because I don't look at it. I don't look around looking for walls all day long. But I can tell you that it has not bothered me one bit. It's been truthful. We made an arrangement with them where they donated some of the land between that fence and the city right-of-way, and they built like a linear walk-away park. The city maintains it. That was the deal was made years ago, and the people do use it to walk on all the way around that whole area. So it's been a party situation between entities of the neighborhood and the hospital worked in unison to get it done. I was not in favor of it for other reasons, but not for the park that's there. And so I can only tell you from experience of what happened in my neighborhood or where I live with the same type of hospital. Up to now, we have had no problems at all with St. Joseph Hospital that I know of.
So, hearing no other questions, can I get a motion to close? So moved. I have a motion to close for Councilman,
I read lips, by the way.
I just want to, yeah.
Well, I don't want to have to reopen something.
There.
Can we close this? Okay. Motion closed from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe we left it off with Councilman Carlson, is that right?
I don't want to make the motion, but can I just make a comment real fast?
Sure.
I'm going to vote for it the first time, but I might not the second time, depending on what happens in between. So I think there's room, having been in the public engagement business before, I think there's room to meet the neighborhood, and I hope some of those things are solved. Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. Move ordinance presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 102, 106, South Del Mabry Highway, City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification, PD plan development, and PD plan development clinic, providing an effective date.
With the revision sheet.
Yes, sir.
More specific.
And with the waivers.
So the waiver to have an 8-foot masonry
Yes,
wall
of course. Thank you.
along the eastern and southern boundary as appropriate.
Yep, incorporated.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
But I think Councilman Carlson spoke for me as well, but I wanted to say I'm definitely looking to see what happens between first and second reading.
Okay, clerk?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We slowed down on that one, but we're going to go through the next two real quick. Brevity. Number 8, file number REZ 2544.
Good evening, Council. Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. This is agenda item number 8 is REZ 2544, and we'll start with the aerial view of the subject site, which is outlined in red here on North 54th Street. This is a request to rezone 2509 North 54th Street from RM16 to RM18. The subject site is located on the east side of North 54th Street between East 14th Avenue and East Columbus Drive. Here's Columbus, here's 14th, and then this is East Broadway here. The surrounding area's development pattern is characterized by single-family detached and semi-detached uses. The block between East 14th Avenue and East Columbus Drive primarily consists of residential single-family detached and semi-detached homes, which is going to be from here to here. There is commercial intensive zoning going further to the south along East Broadway Avenue, located along here, and to the northeast along East Columbus Drive. There is industrial general zoning located 2 blocks to the east along North 56th Street, and you can see that industrial here. To the northeast, near the intersection of East Columbus Drive and North 55th Street, is a planned development that was approved in 1992, and that is up here. Further south, near the intersection of North 54th Street and East 14th, is a planned development, REZ 2199, approved in 2022 for multifamily and commercial intensive uses, and that is located down here. As you move north from the subject site across East Columbus Drive, the zoning changes to residential single-family 50, and that is up in this area. Next, I'll show you the survey of the site. You can see the existing one-story residence with the driveway, and this is North 54th Street here. The property is outlined here. Since this is Euclidean rezoning, there are no site plan or elevations. Next, I'll show you some photos of the site. This is a photo of the site. This is another photo of the site where you can see that driveway. This is looking south from the site. This is east of the site on 55th Street. So directly behind there. This is west of the site. And then this is north of the site here. Development coordination and compliance staff reviewed the application and find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Planning Commission, please.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Tampa Planning District in the East Side Commercial Neighborhood. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. The site is here outlined in purple and designated as Residential 20, which surrounds the site on all four sides. To the west is the Recreation Open Space designation, which includes the Oak Park Community Center. Further north along Columbus is CMU 35, and further east and south is the Transitional Use 24 designation. Also, this white area here is just outside of the city limits, so that's unincorporated county. The request supports infill development on an underutilized parcel within proximity to community amenities and employment options. At the time of permitting, the site should meet the comprehensive plan policies relating to sidewalk connections and front door orientations to the street or sidewalk. Overall, the request is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, supports the compact city form strategy, and is consistent with the development pattern envisioned under the R20 designation and consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? No questions. Is there an applicant? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Iris Ruiz. I'm looking forward to, thank you for your time and my condolences. I'm just looking to rezone. I didn't have enough of the square footage, and I just want to do a multifamily unit.
Very good.
That concludes.
Anybody have any questions? Anything else you have?
That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion to close? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody from the public? Is there anybody in the public wishing to comment?
Still gonna ask.
Motion. We have a motion to close for Councilman Miranda, second for Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, Councilman Carlson, would you like to read this one?
Yeah, number 8, right. Yes, I'd like to move file number REZ 25-44, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2509 North 54th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to RM18 residential multifamily, providing effective date.
We have a motion for Councilman Carlson, a second for Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Last but not least, number 9, file number REZ 2547.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 9 is REZ 2547, a request to rezone 2511 West St. Isabel Street from planned development to residential single-family 50. Before you is a aerial of the subject site and surrounding parcels. The subject property is outlined in red. It's located along the north side of West St. Isabel Street. It's also located at the northeast corner of the intersection of West St. Isabel Street and North Tampania Avenue. The site is located on a block located between North Tampania Avenue and North Armenia Avenue. To the east, west, and southeast of the subject site, there are properties zoned planned development. Each of these properties has been approved with medical office or a combination of medical office and professional office uses. We also have RS50 zoning to the north, to the south, and southwest of the subject site. Given the size of this lot at 10,000 square feet, as well as the proposed RS50 zoning, a maximum number of dwelling units that can be considered here is 2. We do have a survey of the subject site outlined in yellow. It shows the property's location at the intersection of Tampania Avenue and West St. Isabel. Each of the street frontages is approximately 100 feet in length. Also, going back here to, oops, bringing the arrow back up here just for a moment. Given the surrounding uses, the requested RS50 is appropriate in location and provides appropriate transition with surrounding properties. I do have some photos I'll show. This is a photo of the subject site. This was taken from West Isabel. This is a photo from North Tampania Avenue, looking east at the subject site. Immediately north of the subject site, single-family detached dwelling. South of the subject site across West Isabel is a vacant parcel. This, of course, is zoned RS50. This is looking east from the subject site, looking west across North Tampania. That's one of the existing medical office buildings in the area. Looking southwest from the subject site across that intersection, we do have single-family detached uses. Looking north on North Tampania. Looking south on North Tampania. Looking east on West Isabel. And lastly, looking west on West St. Isabel. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there are no site plans or elevations to provide. Development Coordination Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We found the request to be consistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations, and I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing no questions. Planning Commission.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Tampa Planning District and the West Tampa Heights Stadium area neighborhood. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is outlined in purple and designated as Residential 10, which surrounds the site on all 4 sides. Further north along Virginia Avenue is the Residential 20 designation, and further north and east along North Armenia Avenue is the Community Mixed Use 35. Staff has reviewed the request and found it comparable and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The request would allow the consideration of 2 single-family detached zoning lots. The proposed rezoning supports the comprehensive plan's goals for infill development and housing availability near employment and transit corridors. Overall, the request is compatible with the surrounding development pattern and is consistent with the long-range vision anticipated under the R10 designation and consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Is there an applicant?
Hello. Jennifer Grissom on behalf of the applicant. I'll keep it very brief. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I feel like a lot of people have.
Is there anybody in council chambers that wish to speak to this item? Just in case they're hiding under the chairs.
Let me just say one thing, if I may.
Absolutely.
This is really the reverse. Usually you see 50 RS50, that neighborhood going to a medical because of the vicinity to medical hospital. But I want to say thank you very much.
Okay, can I enter motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco? Second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. File number REZ 25-47. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2511 West St. Isabel Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification PD plan development to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption to be held on July 17th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
That concludes our agenda. New business. Councilman Carlson.
I don't have a proposal, just want to remind everybody of a topic. Councilmember Henderson regularly brought up the Yellow Jackets, and I don't know what she was doing on it, but if there's anybody else who knows about it, you're welcome to join in, or if there's anybody listening, staff, let us know what we can do.
I would reach out to Darlene.
The only issue that I know of is we're talking about the community benefit agreement, possibly with related. You know, we had asked if there was any opportunity to reopen that. I think that's the only thing I know.
I believe you're 100% correct. They've had a history there of playing those young boys and girls for a long, long time. And
or even if they were able to renegotiate the community benefit agreement to support where they're currently playing to improve that field.
yeah, one or the other.
Yeah.
It's got to be done because they were just as important to that neighborhood as West Tampa. Little League is to West Tampa.
Correct.
And Wellswood, Little League is to Wellswood.
Yep.
Thank you, staff.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Vera.
Yes, sir. A couple things. I wanted to say that for the late Councilwoman Henderson's funeral, I unfortunately have that day a court-ordered mediation where I'm serving as mediator, and so it starts at 9 a.m. Unfortunately, I have a conflict, just FYI. It breaks my heart. I'll try to get there as much as I can, obviously. Couple of things really fast. On Saturday, I was invited to the Blake High School 60th reunion. I assume they'd love to have other council members. So if anybody wants to come, just contact Darsh and just let me know. So I just wanted to put that out there. I visited, you all know the Equal Justice Initiative, the national, I'm tired, long day, but I visited the Equal Justice Initiative, which highlights the legacy of racial lynchings throughout the United States. And if y'all remember, in 2022, we were able to get the marker for Robert Johnson, who was a gentleman who was lynched, an African American, in 1934. And they have another marker which has the names of the African Americans who, in Hillsborough County, Lewis Jackson, Galloway, Robert Johnson, and others who were lynched in Hillsborough County. And they're supposed to give those out to the community. And I spoke with people there about that because I'd love to have it here in Hillsborough County. So therefore, I'm requesting that I be authorized to do a letter on behalf of City Council requesting that be given to us here in Tampa.
We have a motion from Councilman Viera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Council. And then last, I was requested, and I gladly accepted, to promote that tomorrow, Starbucks Workers United at 14394 North Dale Mabry Highway from 12 to 2 p.m. They're trying to organize a union there through the Starbucks Workers United, and they're encouraging people who want to support the union drive effort to drop by. You can meet the organizers, you can show them support, you can order coffee, and when you order coffee, you're supposed to say Union Strong. So I'm going to go, and I would encourage everybody to go and to show support for our Starbucks workers who are trying to form a union. You know, if you go to Starbucks at all, I'll go every once in a while. A lot of times the one next door, you know, the people that are working there are from all over. They're young people, they represent families and so forth, and they're becoming a bigger and bigger share of our workplace, and we want to make sure that they have a voice on the job. So if anybody wants to support that from 12 to 2 tomorrow, I'd encourage people to go. And that's it.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I've been to one. I highly recommend it. Okay, I have two motions. One, I motion to present a commendation to the Mission Continues organization. The Mission Continues is a veterans-focused nonprofit organization hosting an event called Mass Deployment, where they are bringing veterans into our community to help build or service different projects in selected cities around the country. This year, Tampa is one of those cities. They will be deployed for 5 days, working on 5 different projects for the community, starting on the 20th until the 25th. This commendation will be presented June 20th at 9 a.m. at the kickoff of their first day at the Volunteers of America's James Cole Village.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak,
Second.
a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I want to say that one of these is going to be the Sustainable Living Project, which is a garden right across from Zoo Tampa, and they do great work.
Very cool.
Second, I am continuing to work with both community stakeholders and staff on changes to the current Tree Trust Fund ordinance. So I need to continue the first reading currently scheduled for June 26, 2025 to a future date not yet determined.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, I would like to present 2 commendations, or maybe one joint commendation to Brian and Kimberly Sullivan offsite. I know they're going to be leaving for, their another vacation.
Fancy cruise.
But so I'll coordinate with Lisa and them, and we'll figure something out, and I'll get it to them. So I want council to recognize
Well
them.
taken. Okay, a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed?
and I'd like to wish Sue Ling a happy early birthday. It's, I think, Monday, June 16th.
I think you should sing to her.
I'll call and anonymous phone call sing and
No, I want you to sing to her now.
No. My voice, I gotta warm it up. So just happy birthday, Sue Ling. I know it's June 16th. So
We're gonna get you to sing one of these days.
I'll work something out.
Okay, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. I just want to say, I want to have a commendation done to the baseball organization of University of Tampa. No one in the United States in Division II has ever won 10 World Series. They were tied at 9 with Florida Southern, and the games that they played, in fact, the last game, I told myself, I'm not going to watch it because I don't want to jinx them. they were already, they had to win the last two games, because they had lost one prior game. If not, they would have lost, they couldn't play for the final. They won that game, and then they lost the first game that they should have won. They were leading, and somehow they lost in the ninth inning, but they came back in the second two games like miracle stuff, like being down 4 or 5 runs and winning, and it was just, I didn't see the last game because I didn't want to jinx them. I believe in those kind of things.
Me too.
I believe you're jinx.
I know you are. If I look at you, I get jinxed sure. But what I'm looking at is that I'd like to make a combination for all the players and the coaches, and I think the mayor's got something going for him. I don't know where or what time, but I think it's here at City Hall.
So to place and time to be determined.
Be determined, yeah, but I need to start making the combination. I gotta give
So we have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody else, anything else? I will entertain a motion to receive and file.
So move second.
Okay, we have a motion to receive and file from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are now adjourned. Guido, what do we do with these things?